The first Transformers movie holds up to this day. It not only shaped the lore as we know it for future series, but it also brought in a new style of making movies that hadn't been as prominent as it would be in plenty of different films. Transformers is a great cast of characters that each fill their roles well, even if some did more than others, with a good mix between Autobots and Decepticons, the human friends of the Autobots, the military inspired loosely by G.I. Joe, and even those involved with either Sector 7 or the Pentagon. The movie's made for an older audience, like most movie adaptations from the 2000s and early 2010s, but it doesn't become too difficult to understand, at least for me at a younger age. The idea of Bumblebee and Sam sharing the spotlight with the boy in his car mindset fits well with Sam's transition from his simpler teenage years into the more complicated life as an adult, with love interest Michaela Bain slowly becoming someone in his life who would stick with him, at least for the first two movies. Overall, Transformers is a great start for the movie franchise, but I'm sure you already know about that by this point. Revenge of the Fallen is often seen nowadays as a pretty weak sequel to the first movie. While I don't like it as much as movie 1 as I used to back in 2009, I still do enjoy it regardless. The biggest issue has to be the humor which, while not the end of the world, does overstay its welcome with some characters, like the twins, who were fine in the opening, but they did get annoying when they were with B, Sam and the rest. They did make up for it by having the balls to go up against Devastator, while no other robot did. Stuff like the writing and the inclusion of Joel are a bit rougher than the first movie, due to the Writers' Strike Guild, as with many of the films developed in 2008 and released in 2009. But I'd say that the human acting and the robot voice acting are both good, and there is a bit more polish put into this film than competitive films like Wolverine Origins or Terminator Salvation. Some might find that as a bar that's already low, but I see it as a movie that is easier to rewatch, unless your hatred for it lives rent-free in your head. Dark of the Moon is the best Transformers movie of all time. Not just for the live-action series, but in general. Sorry not sorry, G1 fans. What makes this movie better than Revenge of the Fallen as a sequel is a clearer use of its vision in mind. I did like that Sam Witwiki's reluctant in helping the Autobots again, along with the Fallen talks to the poor dude while holding the Sun hostage for revenge. But what happens in Dark of the Moon feels much more effective in my opinion. We find out that there are human collaborators of the Decepticons, who are now waiting for Sentinel Prime's resurrection as he is a key to bringing Cybertron to Earth. Optimus Prime trusting Sentinel only for him to be backstabbed by the Mentor justifies his reasons for shooting him with no regret. Not to mention the fact that Ironhide was murdered, so yeah, fuck Sentinel Prime. I know most fans are upset that Shockwave was nerfed in the movie, but the point was for people to not be aware of Sentinel's change in character halfway through the film. Regardless, Dark of the Moon is peak cinema, and I don't make the rules. Age of Extinction has been nostalgic in some senses. I was obsessed with the film back in my high school days. From a new wave of toys to seeing what the new designs would look like. It feels like things are going to change in more ways than one. Looking back, I can't help but feel it's more of a mixed bag. I can still watch Age of Extinction no problem, but it feels more like a weird mix between there being passion and contempt with the story and characters. It's like a weird meta thing where Cemetery Wind represents the people who are sick of the Transformers, and the Autobots being fans who are still around to defend something they dearly love. I also felt that contempt part in a few of the jokes, but I feel that stuff like KSI's Decepticons, or the Dinobots not being as prominent as the Autobots on the run, but the way Lockdown gets more attention than any other antagonist in this film, combining all that with the lack of definitive information on what else happened between this movie and Dark of the Moon, in addition to stuff like the mystery of the creators and all that, it just makes Age of Extinction hold up less than I'd expect. The Last Night isn't the worst thing I've ever seen, but when you compare it to the other Transformers movies, it just has ass written all over it. There are so many things wrong with this movie, from the bloated script to the stretched duration that makes the movie feel more like a drag than it already seems. Stuff happens, but then stuff doesn't happen, and there's also a ton of wasted potential for the movie, such as the lack of Nemesis Prime, no backstory of Megatron apart from the clues of his new design, Quintessa not doing a whole lot, we don't even get to see Cogman as a headmaster, and this whole thing about Cade being the last night felt like the most random thing that actually happened in the movie, but then again, that's probably apt for the rest of the film. The editing is also embarrassing between the constantly shifting aspect ratios or the inconsistencies between shots, and even the fact that there are two different versions of the movie, yet neither of them are any good. I think this is the first time I'd agree with Bayverse haters that this movie sucks ass. By contrast, this would probably make me public enemy number 1, but I do not like the Bumblebee film. It's not a bad movie per se, and I can see why people would prefer this over The Last Knight. But when you compare it to the other Transformers movies, it just has bum written all over it. I know, easy irate gamer joke once again, but I still stand by my opinions towards Bumblebee. I feel like this and The Last Knight were trying so hard to mimic the MCU success of spin-off films and setting shit up, but while The Last Knight was crammed as hell, Bumblebee felt pretty vanilla by comparison. While it does have a story, it does feel like a mix between recycling what we got from the first movie, with plenty of other things that happened in 80s films, and Easter eggs all over the place, because that's all people care about more often than not. I mean, for fuck's sakes, people cared more about the scenes on Cybertron than they did the rest of the movie. I kinda feel like spoiling that was a bad idea. And the funny thing about this whole Nightverse thing is the fact that we get a new director afterwards. So what was the whole point of that?